Tonight, on First at 9 this Monday, the 9th of June 2025. Impartial probe. Cabinet decides to suspend Commissioner General of Prisons to facilitate an impartial investigation into the controversial presidential pardons. Container controversy. Amid growing controversy over the clearance of 323 containers, Pivituru Helorume leader Udaya Mampila declares readiness to disclose the contents of the uninspected cargo. Strengthening trade ties. Sri Lanka and China ink two memoranda of understanding following discussions with the Chinese Minister of Commerce. Revenue boost. The central bank reports a strong fiscal performance in the first quarter of 2025, with state revenue climbing to nearly 1.5 trillion rupees, a 19.42% increase.
Cinec Campus Open Day. May masa 3 වෙනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story this evening, breaking just now, Commissioner General of Prisons Thusara Upuldeniya has been arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department. This comes after the Cabinet earlier today decided to suspend the Commissioner General of Prisons from his duties in order to impartially conduct the investigations into the allegations that a prisoner was released illegally under the presidential pardon amnesty. Police said Upuldeniya will be produced before the Colombo Magistrates Court. In the meantime, Anuradhapura Prison Superintendent Mohan Karunaratne, who was arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department last night in connection with the controversial presidential pardon, was remanded in custody until June 11th by the Anuradhapura Magistrates Court.
SJP parliamentarian Ajit P. Pereira revealed in Parliament on June 6th that a presidential pardon had been granted on May 12th under the Vesak Boyade amnesty program to an individual convicted by the Anuradhapura High Court on May 2nd for financial fraud. Following significant public outcry, the spokesperson for the Prisons Department issued a statement claiming that the presidential pardon was granted uniformly to all eligible prisoners. However, the President's Media Division announced last Saturday that the name of the convict in question was not included in the list of 388 prisoners approved for presidential pardon, which has been sent to the Presidential Secretariat by the Commissioner General of Prisons. Subsequently, the Criminal Investigation Department launched an investigation into the controversial presidential pardon. Commissioner General of Prisons Thusara Upuldeniya was summoned to the CID for a third consecutive day today to record statements regarding the issue. Subsequently, Cabinet today decided to send the Commissioner General on mandatory leave. An additional secretary to the Ministry of Justice, Nishan Dhanasinghe, was appointed the acting Commissioner General of Prisons. In the meantime, several police teams, including the Criminal Investigation Department, have been assigned to re-arrest the convict who was illegally released on Vesak Boyade. Meanwhile, investigations by the CID's Financial Crimes Investigation Unit have uncovered that 3 prisoners in total have been unlawfully granted presidential pardons on Vesak Boyade. It has been revealed that prison officials exploited a procedural loophole to facilitate these illegal releases, which is caused by the lack of a review mechanism for the finalized list of prisoners eligible for presidential pardons. It was also found that prisoners who were truly eligible for pardons had been overlooked, while others were released without proper authorization. In total, around 26 inmates had been released in this unauthorized manner on Vesak Boyade and Christmas Day last year. Meanwhile, officers of the Financial Crimes Investigation Unit arrested the superintendent of the Anuradhapura prison last night. Superintendent Mohan Karunaratne, a 52-year resident of Kaluthara, was brought to the Anuradhapura police station. He was produced before the Anuradhapura Magistrates Court today and was ordered to be held in remand custody until the 11th of June. In the meantime, the Committee for Protecting Rights of Prisoners arrived at the Criminal Investigation Department to file a complaint demanding a probe into the illegal releases. Afterwards, the committee conducted a silent protest in front of the Ministry of Justice. Justice Minister Harshana Nayakara invited 10 protesters for a discussion.
The list we forwarded and the list that we approved by the President does not include the name of the convict who was released. Therefore, the President's Secretariat took measures to file a complaint with the CID on June 6th. We drafted the cabinet paper by including those details. With the cabinet decision we took today, we decided to suspend the Commissioner and initiate preliminary investigations. The investigations will be concluded within the allocated time. Based on the final report, we will take measures against the individuals responsible for these irregularities.
Deputy Minister of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs Sunil Watagala also commented on the issue.
It is clear that the incident wasn't a result of a decision of the President. It was an individual who was not mentioned in the approved list. This has happened due to a careless act caused by bureaucratic manipulation. The Prisons Department is currently taking disciplinary action regarding this matter. It will be decided after the ongoing investigations.
President Anura Dissanayake is expected to undertake an official visit to the Federal Republic of Germany from the 11th to the 13th of June this year, following an invitation extended by the President of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier. During the visit, President Dissanayake will hold bilateral discussions with the President of Germany, key ministers of the federal government and other dignitaries to discuss new avenues for cooperation, including in the spheres of trade, digital economy, investment and vocational training opportunities. President Dissanayake will chair a business forum organized by the German Chamber of Commerce and Industry with key industries in Germany to highlight Sri Lanka's economic transformation, available investment opportunities, the country's growth potential and opportunities for building new trade ties between the two nations. The Sri Lankan President will also meet tourism and travel industry associations of Germany during the visit. President Dissanayake will be accompanied by Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath and senior government officials. Pivituru Helaurume leader Uday Gammanpila claims he will reveal the contents of the 323 containers allegedly cleared without inspection by Sri Lanka Customs. He made this statement upon arriving at the Criminal Investigation Department this morning to provide a statement.
The clearance of 323 containers without inspection by Sri Lanka Customs drew significant concern from several opposition parties, which questioned the contents of the shipments. As part of the investigation into the controversy, parliamentarian Dayasiri Jayasekara was summoned to the CID on the 6th of June to provide a clarification regarding a public statement he made on the issue. Meanwhile, Customs spokesperson, Additional Director General of Customs, Sivali Arugoda, assured that there were no weapons, gold or narcotics in the containers in question. In this context, Uday Gammanpila was also summoned to the CID this morning to clarify comments he previously made on the matter. During questioning, Gammanpila has reportedly provided information concerning 371 containers that, according to him, were cleared without proper inspection.
We briefly stated our position. On both January 17th and 18th, several containers with yellow and red labels were released. Mr. Sivali Arugoda has assured that there were no weapons in these containers. However, if they can confidently declare the contents without conducting proper inspection, then we have wasted public funds by investing in scanning equipment. I have a list of the containers released by Customs. There's a discrepancy here. Yesterday, the Additional Director of Customs stated that only 270 containers were released. However, the Customs Officers Association claims the number is 323. According to my list, the actual number is 371 containers. I have already submitted this list to the CID. Mr. Sivali, who chaired the committee that approved the release of these containers, is the one who held the press conference yesterday. He is scheduled to retire in November and has plans to take up a job in Belgium. If he leaves the country, the ongoing investigations may be compromised, similar to what happened in the bond scam case. Therefore, I have requested the police to obtain a court order preventing him from leaving the country.
Minister of Ports and Civil Aviation Bimal Ratnayaka and Deputy Minister of Public Security Sunil Watagala also issued statements addressing the issue.
They are trying to create unnecessary issues. In which country are all containers thoroughly inspected? Even in major ports with advanced technology, it is impossible to inspect every single container. Globally, there are recognized protocols in place. For instance, companies that have been consistently shipping goods for over 20 years are processed through a green channel that are not subject to regular inspections. This is a standard practice worldwide.
දෑසිරිත් ගම්මන්පිලත් කියලා තියෙන්නේ අසත්‍යයක් න.
If MPs Dayasiri and Gamampila have made false statements, we believe the CID will take appropriate action. That is our expectations from the case filed by an independent lawyer. It is evident that these claims are false. It is dangerous to make misleading accusations for short-term political gain.
ඉෂ්ට කිරීම ටිකක් භයානකයි.
Former ministers Mahindananda Alutkamage and Nalin Fernando, who were recently convicted and sentenced to prison over corruption, have filed an appeal with the Supreme Court today. They have requested the Supreme Court to quash the verdict and acquit them of all charges.
Former ministers Mahindananda Alutkamage and Nalin Fernando were convicted for the unlawful procurement of 14,000 carom boards and 11,000 checkers boards during the 2015 presidential election campaign, which were then distributed among sports associations, allegedly causing a loss of over 53 million rupees to the government. Nalin Fernando also served as the former chairman of Satosa. Through the petition of appeal duly filed, Mahindananda Alutkamage argues that the three-judge bench of the High Court misinterpreted key facts when delivering the verdict. The appeal also claims that the court failed to properly consider evidence presented by the defence. Both Alutkamage and Fernando have formally requested the Supreme Court to quash the High Court's ruling and acquit them of all charges. Meanwhile, former Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwalla appeared before the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption today. The Commission is continuing its investigation into legal proceedings pending in the High Court concerning the alleged accumulation of undeclared assets by the former minister and his family members. Rambukwalla reportedly provided a statement to investigators for over 5 hours. In a separate development, Jamuni Kamantha, chairman of the Citizens Power Against Bribery, Corruption and Waste organisation, was also summoned before the Bribery Commission today. His appearance was in relation to a complaint filed concerning the burning of residences belonging to members of parliament during the public unrest in 2022.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Noting administrative and logistical issues grappling Sri Lanka's railway service, Transport Minister Bimal Ratnayaka revealed that issues confronting the railway department cannot be resolved quickly. These remarks were made by the minister at a ceremony held in honour of the individual who prevented a train accident on the coastal railway line, along with the train driver who brought the train to a safe stop, avoiding a head-on collision.
On the morning of Thursday, June 5th, Samantha Fernando heroically averted a potential disaster involving the Sagarika Express travelling from Ballaya to Maradana. While travelling along the road adjacent to the coastal railway line between the Pandura and Egodoyana stations, Fernando noticed damage to the railway track. Risking his life, he bravely signalled the train to stop by waving a red flag, preventing what could have been a major accident. Meanwhile, at the time the Sagarika Express was at a complete halt due to the damaged track, another train was approaching on the same line from Panadura to Colombo Fort. Due to a malfunction in the coastal railway line's signalling system, the driver of the incoming train had no notice of the other train stranded ahead on the same railway track. Fortunately, Vidura Vidarshana, the driver of the oncoming train, spotted the stationary Sagarika Express ahead in time and took immediate action to bring his train to a safe stop, averting a possible collision. A ceremony was held today at the Ministry of Transport to honour Samantha Fernando of Egodoyana and train driver Vidura Vidarshana for preventing 2 major rail accidents on the same day. Both received certificates and prizes, with Vidarshana also receiving a special commendation certificate, one of the highest honours for a railway driver.
We wanted to introduce the 2 heroes to the country publicly. They are superstars, aren't they? These issues cannot be narrowed down to malfunctioning of railway lines. We have noticed administrative issues as well. There's a shortage of train drivers. Even though new drivers are recruited, they have to go through a 3-year training period. For the next 2 years, there will be challenges confronting us. Therefore, I am not going to give any miraculous promises.
Leader of the Sarvajana Ballaya parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira says merely apprehending thieves is not enough for a country to move forward. Speaking at a party event in Ballaya today, Jayavira emphasised that while recovering stolen wealth is important, that alone is not sufficient for the country's development.
An awareness program of the Sarvajana Ballaya's Self-Employment Union was held in Badulla today under the patronage of party leader parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira. The oath-taking ceremony of the Badulla district local government councillors of the Sarvajana Ballaya also took place during the event.
Theft must not be a qualification. Efficiency, talent and creativity are the essential elements needed to move a country forward. We cannot progress under a system that boasts only about arresting individuals one by one and claiming they have caught thieves. It does not matter if thieves are caught. However, if we make that the national narrative, all we will able to do is count the number of thieves caught over the past 5 years. We must correct the mistakes that occurred throughout our political history. If there is stolen wealth, it must be recovered and justice must be served against the thieves. However, we must also accept that a country and its economy cannot move forward based solely on this concept.
The committee tasked with drafting the national media policy emphasises that the document currently published in the website of the Ministry of Mass Media is a policy framework, not a piece of legislation governing the media. During a press conference in Colombo today aimed at clarifying key aspects of the policy initiative, the committee announced that Sri Lanka's model for regulating media will be a balanced approach which avoids the extremes of both direct state control and self-regulation.
The preliminary draft of the National Media Policy, formulated by a specially appointed committee, has been published on the official website of the Ministry of Mass Media. This 23-member committee, established in May 2023, comprises representatives from a diverse spectrum of stakeholders, including public sector bodies, the Sri Lanka Editors Guild, the Sri Lanka Broadcasters Association, media proprietors, industry professionals, academic experts, and various government institutions. A press conference was convened in Colombo today to discuss the different perspectives on the proposed policy framework.
It is important to note that this is a policy framework, not legislation, nor a set of ethical guidelines. Recognizing both the risk associated with direct state control of the media and the limitations of purely self-regulatory models, the proposed national media policy introduces a third approach, co-regulation, a balanced alternative that seeks to avoid the extremes of both. In countries where co-regulation is already in practice, such frameworks are typically established through national legislation. However, they do not function as state institutions. Instead, these bodies are governed by independent multi-stakeholder structures that blend public accountability with media industry expertise, forming a collaborative regulatory model known as cooperative regulation or co-regulation. The proposed policy underscores the need for Sri Lanka to adopt a similar mechanism to ensure both media freedom and responsibility. The draft has been made available on the official website of the Ministry of Mass Media. The general public can submit their suggestions and feedback. The special committee will accept proposals until the 10th of July.
The National Pasion Festival is set to take place tomorrow, once again focusing on Mihintale and Tantirimale. Disciples were seen preparing for the meritorious festival with profound devotion. Thousands of devotees are expected to visit Anuradhapura with key sites such as Ruwan Valisaya, Sri Mahabodhi and Lowa Mahapaya open for worship. The government has made arrangements to provide necessary facilities to the public. Numerous dhansal have been organised across the region with health officials deployed to ensure food quality and standards. For public safety, over 3,000 police officers have been deployed along with police lifeguards stationed around tanks and reservoirs to monitor those bathing. The Government Medical Officers Association is urging pilgrims to wear face masks in crowded areas as a precaution against infectious diseases. To accommodate the large number of travellers, special train services and additional SLTB buses have been arranged by the Department of Railways and Sri Lanka Transport Board. The Derana Media Network will provide media sponsorship for this year's National Pasion Festival, marking the 16th consecutive year of the partnership. With that, here's a look at more local news in brief.
The National Water Supply and Drainage Board announced that a 10-hour water cut will be imposed in several areas in the Gampaha district tomorrow. Accordingly, water supply to the Paliyagoda, Wattala, Jayala and Katunayaka Siduwa Urban Council jurisdictions and the Kalaniya, Biyagama, Mahara, Dompe, Katana, Minuwangoda and Gampaha Pradeshiya Sabha jurisdictions will be suspended from 8:30 am to 6:30 pm. The NWSDB noted that the water cut is being imposed to facilitate the connection of the solar grid at the Biyagama water treatment plant to the main grid and also to carry out essential maintenance activities. In the meantime, police headquarters announced that several senior gazetted officials have been transferred and appointed to new positions with immediate effect. The measure has been taken following the approval granted by the National Police Commission. Accordingly, Senior Superintendent of Police Mohan Lal Siriwardana has been appointed as the Director of the Investigation Division of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. In other local news, the State Veterinary Surgeons Association launched a token strike today based on several demands. During a press conference held yesterday, the chairman of the association announced that the decision to launch the strike was made in response to the Agriculture Ministry Secretary's continued attempts to sabotage the government's efforts to establish a separate service constitution for veterinary surgeons.
Welcome back to First at 9. Now in your business news tonight, the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka says that Sri Lanka and China are deepening their economic and trade cooperation through the signing of key agreements during the visit of the Chinese Minister of Commerce. According to the embassy, 2 memoranda of understanding were signed following discussions with the Chinese Minister of Commerce, one on establishing a trade facilitation working group and another on industrial and supply chain cooperation. These agreements were signed during the 8th meeting of the China-Sri Lanka Joint Trade and Economic Commission held in Colombo. During the meeting, both ministers also discussed advancing high-quality cooperation under the Belt and Road Initiative, expanding trade and investment, safeguarding the multilateral trading system, and exploring additional investment opportunities. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka reported a significant increase in state revenue during the first 4 months of 2025. According to the latest reports of the CBSL, state revenue and grants surged by 236 billion rupees to reach 1.45 trillion rupees in the first 4 months of 2025, reflecting a growth of 19.42%. Notably, a tax revenue of 463.19 billion rupees was recorded in April 2025 alone. This surge in revenue is attributed in part to the reopening of vehicle imports during that month. The overall budget deficit, meanwhile, stood at 261.61 billion rupees during the same period. Up next is Kavya Jaisinghe from Capital Alliance with a few thoughts to round off our Markets Inviv segment for the week.
The domestic stock market rose throughout the previous week. The S&P SL 20 increased by 3.9% from 4,982 to 5,176, while the ASPI increased by 2.73% from 16,855 to 17,395. Moreover, market turnover fell by 21% to 30.42 billion rupees, driven mostly by contributions from the capital goods sector. Furthermore, the government raised 167.5 billion rupees last week through treasury bill auctions. During the auction, interest rates on 6 and 12-month T-bills both decreased by 4 basis points, while the 3-month bills remained constant.
Meanwhile, in your stock update, the ASPI hit a new all-time high, gaining 105.79 points today, while the Colombo Bourse closed in positive territory as a result of price gains in counters such as Haley's, Selinco Holdings and Ceylon Cold Stores. The benchmark all share price index closed 0.61% higher at 17,500.24, while the more liquid S&P SL 20 gained 0.64% to close at 5,208.95. Market turnover was 2.85 billion rupees. The banking sector emerged as the highest contributor to the market turnover, followed by the diversified financial sector. Foreign participation in the market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers, offloading shares worth 106 million rupees. And with that, here's a look at today's exchange rates. That's all for tonight from First at 9. For the latest developments around the clock, stay in touch with Ada Derana, the Sri Lankan news brand of international excellence. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.